A Bitcoin maximalist senator just posted the Ripple logo on her official account, and the entire crypto community is asking the same question. Was this a mistake or was this a signal? XRP Army, a win is a win, and we are going to take it as XRP holders. Something happened yesterday that I genuinely forgot to talk to you about. My bad. But once I show you what it is and tell you who posted it, you are going to understand why this moment matters more than the surface level coverage of it is admitting. Because the person who shared this image is the last person in the entire United States Senate that the XRP community ever expected to see do something like this. And the fact that she did, whether she knew what she was doing or not, has the entire crypto community talking tonight. Let me set the stage for you. Senator Cynthia Lummis is one of the most influential voices on crypto policy in the United States Senate. She has been the most consistent legislative advocate for clear digital asset regulation for years. She is one of the senators currently pushing the Clarity Act forward. She was right there yesterday during the markup session that passed the Senate Banking Committee. And she has been saying publicly for months that clarity is coming. But here is the part that everyone in the XRP community knows about Senator Lummis. She is a Bitcoin maximalist. She does not just hold Bitcoin. She has built her entire crypto identity around it. Her social media has laser eyes. Her public statements emphasize Bitcoin specifically, and she has never, not once, not even in passing, defended XRP or addressed Brad Garlinghouse when he testified before Congress about Ripple's position in the digital asset ecosystem. Until yesterday. But this is the part almost nobody understands. Yesterday, Senator Lummis posted on her official X account a Game of Thrones themed graphic. It was made with AI. It was clearly created by a staffer or an intern, and it is sitting at over 1 million views right now. You look at the image, and the first thing you notice is the laser eyes. Standard Lummis branding, the Bitcoin maximalist signature she has been carrying for years, fine, expected. But then you keep looking at the image and you see the logos arranged around her, Bitcoin, Ethereum, a few others, and one logo that is bigger than the rest, more prominent than the rest, sitting in a position that the eye is drawn directly to. The Ripple logo, not a generic crypto coin logo, not the XRP logo, the Ripple logo, the corporate identity of the company that built XRP, the branding of the firm whose CEO has been targeted by Bitcoin maximalists for years. Sitting right there on the official X post of a senator who has never once defended that company in public. And this is where the story becomes dangerous. Now, I want to be honest about what I think happened here. I think the intern or the staffer who created this graphic prompted an AI image generator to make a Game of Thrones styled crypto image using crypto topics and major coin logos. The AI pulled the Ripple logo from its training data because it is one of the most recognized brands in the entire industry. And whoever produced the final image did not bother to check whether including that specific logo would create a political signal. That is probably what happened. That is the boring explanation. But here's the part the XRP community is paying attention to. Even if the boring explanation is what happened, and I think it probably is, the optics matter. Because Cynthia Lummis is now the senator whose official account is publicly displaying the Ripple corporate logo to over 1 million viewers. And the message her account is sending, intentionally or not, is that the boundary between the Bitcoin-only camp and the broader crypto-inclusive camp has gotten thinner than her public positioning suggests. Because when a senator with laser eyes posts the logo of the company she has never once defended in public, the question is no longer about a graphic. The question is what the people who created it already knew. Now here's where things get serious. Let me put this in context. The comment section on the original post is wall-to-wall XRP holders calling this out. Over 1 million views. Comments like blazer eyes and that symbol don't go together. Comments like come and get it, queen. Comments like Ripple logo, biggest one, LOL. The community noticed. The community is talking. And the community is reading the optics in a way that suggests something might be shifting underneath the surface, even if the post itself was an AI accident. Because here is the structural reality. If you are a Bitcoin maximalist senator, including the Ripple logo in your official branding, even by mistake, is the kind of thing that historically would have triggered an immediate apology, a deletion, a public clarification. It has been over 24 hours. The post is still up. The logo is still there. And Senator Lummis has not addressed it. That silence is interesting. Either she has not seen the post yet, which is unlikely given that it has over 1 million views, or her team has reviewed it and decided not to issue a correction. And the decision not to issue a correction is itself a small but meaningful signal that the political calculus around openly distancing from Ripple has shifted. Because if it had not shifted, the post would already be deleted, and what happens next changes everything. Brad Garlinghouse, by the way, has not responded publicly to the post either. I imagine if I were in his position, I would probably acknowledge it with a wink, something like maybe. Because look at the image. The Ripple logo is right there. It is one of the most prominent in the entire composition. And the resemblance, the placement, the way it has been integrated, it could be reading as a signal even if no signal was intended. Maybe it is signaling something. Maybe it is signaling nothing. But the fact that the XRP community is asking the question is itself a sign that the perception of where Senator Lummis stands has begun to shift. And perception, in politics, is often the precursor to position. If you are reading this differently, drop your interpretation in the comments. I want to see what this community thinks. But this is the part almost nobody is connecting. Now let me bring this back to the bigger picture, because the Lummis post is not a standalone event. It is happening inside a window of the most intense legislative activity around crypto in American history, and the timing matters. We just passed the Senate Banking Committee markup of the Clarity Act on Thursday with a 15-9 bipartisan vote. 2 Democrats crossed over. The bill is now headed toward the Senate floor. We are waiting on Senate floor passage, which is expected sometime between late May and June. We are tracking toward a presidential signature targeted for July 4th, America's 250th birthday. Why July 4th? Because at consensus last week, I was sitting there in person, listening live. Patrick, I'm at the White House crypto advisor, said directly that after everything is said and done, July 4th is the date the administration is targeting for the Clarity Act to be signed into law by President Trump. That target is not coming from a podcast guest. It is coming from the White House staff directly involved in the legislative process, which means the political machinery behind getting this bill to the president's desk in the next 60 days is real, it is funded, and it is operating. We are not just talking about committee passage anymore. We are talking about full Senate floor passage in the coming weeks, then reconciliation between the Senate and House versions, then the desk of the president, then the signature, then the 360-day implementation window opens. That entire sequence is now in motion. And in that environment, when a Bitcoin maximalist senator's official account suddenly displays the Ripple logo to 1 million viewers, the optics are not arbitrary. The optics are the political environment shifting in real time. Now here's where things get serious for the broader market. Meanwhile, XRP is still trading boring. The price is not doing much. Crypto generally is in a quiet zone. The weekend is approaching and Sunday is going to be even quieter. But underneath that quiet surface, the structural setup is moving in ways that the chart is not reflecting yet. President Trump just came back from his China trip, and by all accounts, it was a tremendous success. That is the language Trump himself used as he was returning to the White House. A tremendous success. There was a brief 30-second exchange with the press where he repeated that framing several times. The deliverables from the China trip include some serious commercial agreements. Boeing is reportedly selling 200 planes to China. That is a deal worth tens of billions of dollars flowing into a U.S. manufacturer. And China is reportedly buying significant volumes of U.S. soybeans. There is money moving in both directions. Both sides of the aisle benefit from that trade flow. And the macro picture for the U.S. economy, at least on the trade front, looks better today than it did 72 hours ago. That matters for crypto because the macro environment has been one of the biggest drags on risk asset performance for months. Rising bond yields, CPI inflation tracking back toward 5%, Berkshire Hathaway sitting on $397 billion in cash. The Federal Reserve under new chairmanship with Kevin Warsh now in the role, all of that has been suppressing risk-on appetite across the board. A successful US-China trade deal does not solve all of those macro pressures, but it removes one of the biggest sources of uncertainty that has been weighing on institutional risk allocation. And reducing uncertainty is exactly what allows risk-on assets to start performing again. And this is where the story becomes dangerous to dismiss. So let me bring it all together. Cynthia Lummis, a Bitcoin maximalist, just posted the Ripple logo to her official account in front of 1 million people. The Clarity Act is on its way to the Senate floor with the White House targeting July 4th for signature. Trump just returned from a successful China trip with major trade deliverables. Bipartisan support for crypto legislation is documented in the most recent committee vote. The political environment around XRP has shifted from where it was 12 months ago in a way that nobody in the mainstream media is fully covering. If you are an XRP holder watching the price sit flat and wondering why nothing is happening, the answer is that everything is happening, just not on the chart yet. The chart reflects the lagging indicator. The political environment is the leading indicator, and the leading indicator is moving in a direction that has structural implications nobody has properly priced in. The Lummis post itself is small. The implications are not. because what it tells you is that the political wall between the Bitcoin camp and the broader crypto ecosystem is starting to crack. And once that wall cracks, the bipartisan path to the 60 votes needed in the full Senate becomes meaningfully easier to construct. Now, here's where things get serious for the political math. Let me explain why this matters. The Clarity Act needs 60 votes to pass cloture on the Senate floor. There are 53 Republicans currently in the Senate. Even if every Republican votes yes, which is the goal Chairman Tim Scott described as his red zone target, the bill still needs 7 Democratic crossovers to clear the threshold. 2 Democrats crossed at committee, Senator Angela Alsobrooks, Senator Ruben Gallego. That is the proof of concept, but getting from 2 to 7 is the political project that needs to happen between now and the Senate floor vote in June. The 5 remaining Democratic votes are going to come from senators who have been wavering, senators who view the Clarity Act with cautious openness but need political cover to commit publicly. Senator Mark Warner, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, Senator Raphael Warnock, and a handful of others. Those senators are watching the political environment. They are watching what their colleagues are doing. They are watching how the bipartisan coalition forms. And every signal that the political environment is becoming more crypto-inclusive, including signals as small as a Bitcoin maximalist accidentally posting the Ripple logo, adds to the case that voting yes on this bill is not a political risk in the way it would have been a year ago. That is the cumulative effect of small signals stacking up. And the Lummis post, intentional or not, is one of those small signals. And what happens next changes everything for the timeline. Let me give you the realistic timeline for what we are looking at over the next 60 days. Senate floor vote on the Clarity Act. Most realistic window is late May through mid-June. Backup window extends into late June. If the bill clears 60 votes in the Senate, it moves to reconciliation with the House version that passed in July of 2025. House reconciliation typically takes days to weeks, depending on the complexity of the differences between versions. If reconciliation completes by late June, the bill arrives at the president's desk in time for the July 4th symbolic signing target. If reconciliation takes longer, the signing slips into July or August. But the structural endpoint, the bill becoming law, remains within the second half of this year, regardless of whether the July 4th symbolic target is hit exactly. After signature, the 360-day implementation window begins. The CFTC publishes registration categories for digital commodity exchanges. The SEC establishes the framework for token migration from investment contract status to digital commodity status. The two agencies coordinate on common rulemaking under the joint guidance Paul Atkins and Michael Selig have already committed to publicly. During that 360-day window, every institutional player that has been waiting for legal certainty begins their public deployment cycle. The first major U.S. bank to announce XRP integration. The first Fortune 500 corporate treasury to add XRP as an operational holding. The first major asset manager to file an XRP ETF beyond what already exists. The first DTCC tokenized settlement to route through XRP rails. That cycle does not start in 2027. It starts the day clarity becomes law. And the holders who are positioned at that point are positioned for the moment when the legal certainty translates into observable commercial deployment. But this is the part almost nobody is sitting with. So here is what I want you to take away from everything we covered tonight. The Lummis post is not the story by itself. The story is that the political environment around XRP has shifted enough that a Bitcoin maximalist's office let the Ripple logo go up on her official account without correcting it. The Clarity Act is in active markup. The Senate floor vote is weeks away. The White House has a date attached to the signature. The macro environment is shifting with the China trade deliverables. And the institutional infrastructure that has been built for years is in position to convert legal certainty into public commercial deployment. If you have been holding XRP through the years of legal uncertainty, through the sideways price action, through the regulatory debates that seem to never resolve, what is in front of you now is not the same conditions you have been holding through. The structural setup has changed materially. The political environment has changed materially. The legislative timeline has changed materially. The price chart is the only thing that has not changed materially yet, and the price chart, historically, is the last thing to move in the sequence. Now here's where things get serious for the patient holder. The XRP holders who are going to look back at this period clearly are the ones who understood that the Lummis post, the committee vote, the China trade success, and the July 4th White House target are all part of the same picture. Not separate news items. The same picture viewed from different angles. Most retail holders are watching the price chart and getting frustrated. The patient holder is watching the political signals and getting more confident in the thesis with every additional signal that stacks up. Cynthia Lummis posting the Ripple logo on her official account is a small signal, but it is part of a larger pattern. Two Democrats crossing on the committee vote was a signal. The White House targeting July 4th was a signal. Patrick speaking at consensus was a signal. The Clarity Act clearing committee 15-9 with bipartisan support was a signal. The macro environment improving with the China trade was a signal. Each signal alone is small. The pattern of signals together is the picture of where this is heading, and this is where the story becomes dangerous to ignore. Some signals are loud, some signals are quiet. And the quietest ones, the ones the senders pretend were accidents, are usually the ones the patient money has already learned how to read. I wanted to make sure you knew this happened. If you were not paying attention, now you are. The Ripple logo on a Bitcoin maximalist's official account is the kind of detail that gets dismissed by people who do not understand the political environment around this asset. The XRP community is not dismissing it. The community is talking about it because the community understands that small signals stack up. What is in front of us over the next 60 days is the most important window in this asset's history: the Senate floor vote, the reconciliation process, the presidential signature, the 90-day operational window that follows, the first institutional announcements that come public, and the price action that follows the institutional announcements. You want to be positioned before that window opens, not after, not during, before. If this video helped you see the Lummis post for what it might be, not just an AI accident but a small marker inside a much larger shift, drop your interpretation in the comments. Is this a signal? Is this nothing? What do you think it means coming from a Bitcoin maximalist senator? Smash that like button if you appreciate this kind of analysis that goes deeper than the headline read. Subscribe and hit the bell so you do not miss the next breakdown, because when the Senate floor vote schedule is announced, when the reconciliation timeline becomes public, when the presidential signature happens, and when the first major institutional XRP announcement drops, my analysis is live within hours of each event. One more thing before you go. I just want to let you know that we have officially launched our new Facebook page for this community. The page is called Power Wealth. I pinned the link in the top comment of this video so you can find it instantly. If you are someone who wants the latest XRP coverage, the breakdowns on what is actually happening in the legislative process, and the macro analysis that connects the dots, most channels are missing. Power Wealth on Facebook is where I am posting the fastest updates, the breaking news reactions, and the additional context that does not always make it into the YouTube videos. If Facebook is where you spend most of your time, follow the page. If you have friends or family in the XRP community who are on Facebook more than YouTube, share the Power Wealth page with them. The goal is to build this community across every platform so that nobody misses what is happening during this exact 60-day window. Power Wealth on Facebook. Link is in the pinned comment. Go follow the page. Drop a like on the first post you see when you get there so the algorithm starts feeding our content to more people in the XRP community. Some signals are loud, some signals are quiet. And the quietest ones, the ones the senders pretend were accidents, are usually the ones the patient money has already learned how to read. Happy weekend, fam. Let's enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.